Hey, listen, as we get started this morning, just looking at the Word, we do want to say welcome and Happy Mother's Day to all the moms in the room. This morning is a little bit different. We're going to do a couple things that maybe are a little bit off script, but one is we have a ministry that we work with here at Church on the Hill called Embrace Grace. Anybody who's heard of Embrace Grace? That's wonderful because most of you have not. And out at our table out there is one of the ladies who heads up our team. Her name is Diana. You can go visit her. But Embrace Grace exists to help moms be successful, basically. And they're focused a lot on younger moms because their vision, again, is to empower the next generation. How many, well, I don't know, but motherhood is busy and complicated sometimes, right, ladies? Just not at least. I had a mom. I watched her raise 4 kids. Didn't always go the way she had hoped or planned, but she was a trooper. And we all came out basically all right. Hey, the Pope is from Chicago. I'm from Chicago. There's some redemption there in the city. Although I think he is a Sox fan, and anyway, that's an inside athletic joke. The other thing we're going to do is we want to recognize, again, the incredible beauty of the idea that God birthed with motherhood, of bringing kids into a world and actually sowing seed into the next generation. But the third thing we want to recognize is it's almost like for pastors, Mother's Day is kind of an elephant in the room because many people don't have a shared or common experience. What I mean by that is there may be like a group of moms in the room, and I'm going to tread carefully here, but respectfully, that life has been fairly normal. You know what I mean? You've had your kids and they're doing okay, and gathering around a Thanksgiving table isn't awkward. It's joyful. You know what I'm saying? Where others of us in the room, like, yeah, family's kind of, you don't know my family. And gathering is awkward, and gathering's difficult. Or maybe there has been loss, or maybe great disappointment, and that pain is real. And man, I don't want to miss that this morning. Honestly, I don't. We want to recognize, thank you for just persevering. Then there's moms in the room that biologically you're waiting or it's never going to happen, but you've chosen to reach into someone else's life and take on motherhood, adoption, and some kind of parenting situation where you've brought someone into your life deliberately because you want to care for them, even though you had no real assigned responsibility. I hope you're tracking with me this morning, but you know why all those situations are different? Because life is complicated. Anybody amen on that? Yeah. Life sometimes doesn't go the way the movies portray it, or the way I'd like to see it, or the way the story, or the way my neighbor experienced it, or my sister, or my brother experienced it. Sometimes life is just full of crazy curveballs. So this morning we're going to hear from several people. 3 people are actually going to be in a little short video that are women among us, and they're all moms, and they've all got backstories. Not enough time to put it all in the video, but I want to introduce you to them in just a second. But we're also going to look at 2 moms in Scripture. And these 2 moms tell 2 different tales, 2 different families, 2 different outcomes, 2 different journeys. But I trust somehow in all this, there's going to be something for everybody here this morning. Would you mind if we just prayed for just a second? Father, thanks for your word. Thanks for your timeless character. And we want to just take a glimpse at your timeless character reflected in real people in real time, both right now and thousands of years ago in your word. So help us, God, just to settle in for just a second and listen to you and watch for you. Recognize your hand at work. Yeah, we give you thanks. In Jesus' name. You know, healthy communities Anybody, my wife and I have two sons. My wife's actually in Kid Nation right now, but we have two boys. They're grown. We have grandkids. And have you noticed that your kids don't all come out the same? They're not all the same. Some of you laugh right away because you have they are so different. I'm wondering if they're both ours, that kind of a deal. We have, again, two boys. They're about 5 years apart. We had some struggles in between the two, being pregnant and so forth. And but man, as they grew up, we were like, how is this possible? You both came from the same mom and dad, basically in the same environment, and they're just so incredibly different. Was it, and you wonder, was it the Mexican food I ate while I was pregnant? Was it where we were living? Was it, what is that? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. All I know is that, man, God has his thumbprint on each one of them in a uniquely different way. And there's beauty and wonder and so forth and amazement in both of them. Sometimes trying to get them to get along was a little bit of a struggle, but you know what I'm saying? The uniqueness is there. And then when some of you that have 3 or 4 or 5 or more, I don't know how you do it. Just getting through the soccer season is a miracle. You know what I mean? How do I that's why we invented Suburbans, Americans, Suburbans. We're going to move the tribe, right? People mover. But you look at Scripture. So we're going to look at 3 things in Scripture here this morning. This tale of 2 women. We're going to see 3 things. First of all, we're going to see this. A God who promises even when life seems barren. And that barrenness is real in this particular story. But God steps into the story and makes a promise that it looks impossible on the surface. But he's God. And so here's the story. It starts in Genesis 15. There's 2 people in the play right now in this story, Sarai and Abram. Their names are shortened because they haven't run their course yet with God. God hasn't changed their name yet, but he will. And here's what it is. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. And he said, "Do not be afraid, Abram." That statement, that opening statement is significant. We'll go back to it. But he says, "Abram, it's me, God. Don't be afraid. I am your shield. I'm your very great reward." So he speaks of Abram's ending. He speaks of destiny. Abram, I'm your reward. I'm your paycheck at the end of life, Abram. But Abram said, "Sovereign Lord." That response is significant too because he realizes, hey, the God who can do all things, wonderful. But what can you give me since I remain childless? And the one who will inherit my state is Eliezer of Damascus. Eliezer was one of his servants. Eliezer wasn't bloodline, and in this particular culture, bloodline was everything. It was everything. It's all the wealth, all the power, all the influence, everything was passed on to your sons. And so to be alive without children or to be alive without sons was a very challenging and heartbreaking thing. And what would happen is when they did die, it would just get split up, the wealth, among the people closest to you, who were usually your servants. Some of us have seen that happen in the passing of a relative. Where there's a will, there's a relative. And they show up, and it breaks up a family. It causes all this tension. And Abram said, "You've given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir." Everything's going to go to him. And the word of the Lord came to him and said, "This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir." So he's saying, Abram, you're going to have a son. He's promising him that heritage, right? Now, the glitch in the story, the wrinkle is Abram is 75 years old. Just let your mind run on that for just a little bit. Can you imagine that? Honey, I got something I need to tell you, and you just need to sit down right now. You're 75, man. Come on. It's like, what? So Abram isn't just this young guy with, all the time in the world and all the potential in the world. He's like, what? He says, God, I don't know how that's going to be. So you know what God does? It's really funny. He takes him outside. He takes Abram, I want to come outside your tent. He said, I want to show you something. He takes him out in the middle of the night. And we've all done this, maybe in Central Oregon, and when you're camping, you walk outside, and you're like, whoa, I had no idea there were that many stars. It doesn't look like that on South Commercial. Right? You've been almost stopped in your tracks in wonder. Isn't it right? You're like, oh my goodness. There's millions and millions and millions of them. I think it's significant that God takes him outside because he wants to show him something. In a way, it's almost like God is gently flashing his credentials. Hey, Abram, see that? Just let your eyes and mind rest on that. Now, Abram, see what you're dealing with? I got this. I got this. That's just like God. He comes, and when he speaks into our lives just seem so impossible. Just so, God, I have no idea how you're going to make this happen. And sometimes it's simple stuff. Like, I don't know how we're going to make the bills at the end of the month. But it's the same principle. God says, look at me. See this? I got you. I got you. Just relax, Abram. So, Abram rests, so to speak, I guess. Like, okay, I'm going to have a son. So Abram's just going through his stuff, and he's 75, and then he's 76, and he's 77, and then he's 78, and he's 79, and the biological clock is ticking big time. Both he and Sarai. Like, God, you made a promise, but I have no idea. And we're waiting. We're waiting. Honestly, ask yourself, I love waiting. I hate waiting. Because if I'm going to get something, I want it now. If I think on a great idea, I want it now. I want to make it successful now. I'd like my inheritance now. And Abram's just waiting and waiting. And he's doing what Abram does. He's running his household. He's being a man. But here's the deal. You know what God's after here, besides showing him the stars? It says in Isaiah and in various other places in the Word of God, it says, I'm actually looking to make a people. This is what God is up to. What Abraham is up to is really narrow. I just got to have this kid so all my wealth doesn't go to my servants. What God's up to is, Abram, I want to form a people who are my very own. Now, for us looking back thousands of years later, we get that because out of Abram came all the Isaacs, and Isaacs came the Jacobs, and Jacob came the 12 tribes, and so on and so forth. And what happened was an enormous group of people that are still with us today, living in the Middle East geographically and around the world, who are called Israelites, and they were God's people, through whom he said, I'm going to display my glory. God was looking for a group of people. You know, when we want to display our glory, we kind of do it. Maybe you bring out the Corvette in the summertime, or maybe you fly the Ducks flag when they're in the playoffs, they're in the finals, or I don't know, you know what I mean? But we've got ways of just kind of showing our glory, right? You wear clothes you probably have grown out of, you shouldn't be wearing, but something says, "Roar!" And God says, I'm going to show my glory. Think about it. I'm going to show my glory. Let me find a 75-year-old impotent man. And I'll get him a wife. I'll have a wife with him, and I'm going to make him a promise. I'm going to show my glory through you. You can imagine their conversations like, you still in this? Is this? God says, I'm going to show my glory through Abram. But Abram has no idea in the moment because he's in the moment. He's in the moment. Have you ever had moments where you felt like, this is an awful moment, and I have no idea how this is actually going to turn out for any good? And then later on down the road, God steps in and shows up somehow and redeems it, and you're like, God, that's amazing. And then you forget it the next time around. And you're right back to, God, I have no idea, and I just need to worry right now. It's like, and God's like, would you just remember what I'm after here? Would you just? So Jaden Wood is one of our moms that's involved with Embrace Grace. I asked her, hey, just sit in front of a camera for a minute. Tell us about moms right here.
Hi, I'm Jaden. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I am due with my second little girl May 27th. I'd say the best part about motherhood is watching my daughter grow into her own personality, her laughter and her courage and her curiosity. It reminds me every day that this is what I'm made for. I'm a mom. I'd say the most challenging part about being a mother is I doubt myself a lot. Did I spend enough time with her? Did I do enough today? Especially balancing being a mom to a toddler and working, preparing for a new baby. It's a lot. It can be overwhelming. Recently, I went through a mother's biggest fear of battling for my daughter and her safety through the court system. And so there was a lot of fear surrounding me every day. I really had to trust God, trust that He was going to provide everything, and He did. He provided everything for me, and it's been a lot easier lately.
I ran into a dark spot. I ran into a tough spot, and I had to trust. Abraham's in a dark spot. But now the story takes a twist because now another player is entered in. Here it is, a God who sees. 11 years have gone by. Abraham is now 86 years old. So his wife, Sarai, sees no way forward in the promise coming to pass. So you can imagine the nervousness, the desperate level goes up. So she has this idea. Have you ever had an idea that at the time seemed brilliant, and then later it's like, not sure about that idea anymore. It seems painful. She has an idea. But don't let me... So in Genesis 16, Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children. I mean, I love this story. I tell you, listen to the nuances behind the words. But she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. Let me pause there and say this. Listen, don't stumble over the slavery piece. Slavery in this culture was very, very normal and common. I'm not condoning it. I know this is 2025. It's a different world. But in that world, you oftentimes were brought into a family that wasn't yours because of economics, because you couldn't take care of yourself, because you had no power to live in the region. You needed protection. Sometimes it was a matter of paying off debts or war. There was a random mix of circumstances, but for whatever reason, Hagar is a slave in Abram and Sarai's household. And so she says to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. So go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abraham agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. Man, this is where Hollywood gets all this stuff. I love the Bible because it's unflinching as it looks at like, whoa, that's crazy, or that's messed up. And she does it. He slept with Hagar and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. So Hagar ends up pregnant by Abram. But Sarah all of a sudden is like, hey, wait a minute. I don't know what she was thinking. That wasn't supposed to happen. And she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "You're responsible for the wrong I'm suffering." That's a whole nother message, guys. That's like, come back on Father's Day. That's a whole nother sermon. I got this great idea. You're the one. It's your fault. I'm sorry, that was a diversion there, but I put my slave in your arms, and now she knows she's pregnant. She despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me. Your slave is in your hands, Abram says. Do with her whatever you think best. So Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. Think about this now. Hagar has been dealt a terrible hand. She's being emotionally abused. She's now about to be homeless. She's pregnant with her master's child. So there's going to be a connection. You know that old saying, you can kind of pick your friends, but you're stuck with your relatives? Well, she's tied to Sarai. She's tied to Abram, whether she likes it or not. This is his son. And unfortunately, his wife hates me. Talking about drama. And she is forced out into the wilderness. Man, she is in a tough spot. She's caught up in someone else's drama, and she's like powerless to do anything about it. She is this woman in this culture, in this situation, she is powerless to change anything. I know in 2025, that's hard for me or us to really wrap our minds around. I mean, I think we know it maybe to certain degrees, but in this culture, man, you have got nothing. And she's kicked out into the wilderness. Imagine her self-talk with me for just a second. Imagine like, how did I get into this? Why did I agree to this? But most of all, she knows Abram's a man of God. She's watched him pray. And she's like, well, God, where are you? Where are you? You ever been in a situation like that where you're like, hey, God, it's me. I'm here. Where are you right now? And in the midst of the wilderness and the mess, she has an encounter. Genesis 16, the passage goes on. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was a spring that's beside the road to Shur. She was on her road to Shur. And God shows up and he asks her a question. He says, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? We know, listen, when God asks a question, it's not because he doesn't know the answer. He's looking for something out of us. Hey, where are you coming from? Tell me about it, sir. Tell me about it, Hagar. She said, I'm running away from my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her. Gosh, really, God? Are those the only two options? One is I just stay here in the wilderness till I die. The other, I go back to that crazy. And God tells her to go back. And then he makes her a promise. He says, I'm going to increase your descendants so much they're going to be too numerous to count. Remember the stars? Hagar, trust me on this. Trust me on this. There's something bigger than just that little boy in your womb. You know, here's the application if you're looking for something you can take. Sometimes harsh circumstances put us in a position where we lose perspective. We can almost feel like we're invisible. Have you ever felt like that sounds weird, but have you ever felt like you're invisible? Like you're just in a crowd of people and you're going through something extremely difficult and you can't exactly explain it to anybody and people are interacting all around you, but you're like, I'm invisible in this room right now because no one gets me. And maybe you're smiling, maybe it's a fancy wedding where everybody's dressed up and everybody seems to know everybody, but not me. I'm just kind of sitting in the corner watching it all go by. And I just feel invisible. And does that sound random, or does anybody relate to that? Like, does anybody see me? Does anybody, in America, we got this down, right? Hey, how you doing? Fine. How about you? Fine. Everybody's fine. That's our last name, Fine. I'm Bruce Fine. It's funny how many people outside our culture see that as like, who are you people? Everybody's fine? But Hagar is not fine. And her perspective, God comes into this thing. He kind of enters her frame of existence. The angel of the Lord said to her, you're now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. And you shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. And he's going to be a wild donkey of a man. How'd you like to hear that when you're 7 months pregnant? Hey, that's a donkey of a man you're carrying there. I'm not sure if I'd be assured with that or if I'd be like, oh my gosh, when does this stop? His hand will be against everyone and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. You know what's crazy? Thousands of years ago, God spoke to this woman about the nature of her lineage. Her lineage is still with us all over the Middle East. All over the Middle East and the Arab nations and the Bedouin and the nomadic tribes. Those are all the sons of Ishmael. And Islam has come in and just look at the mess, and that's her heritage. But then she says, she gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. This is the only place in all of Scripture where God allows a person to name him. She says, you are El Roi, the God who sees me. Isn't that crazy? Her perspective was, nobody sees me, but God shows up in my wilderness. And he speaks to me, and he gives me hope. He tells me, he gives me a difficult assignment. I'm carrying a man of a donkey, and he tells me to go back to this mistress, but he sees me. So she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. You know, just because we can't see God doesn't mean that he can't see us. You ever play hide and seek with your kids when they were really young? When our kids were really young, they just wanted to hide and be found. They didn't really want to seek. And so they would, they'd go hide in the closet or under a kitchen cabinet, and then they get tired of that, and our younger son would just go over in the corner and cover his head with a blanket, and then he'd count 1, 2, 3, and I'd have to play along. Okay, are you in the cabinet? I'd open and slam the door, open the closet, slam the door, and he's giggling. He's right there, but he's got a blanket over his head, and then I'd just slowly, is he near the corner? Is David near the corner? And then you can't do that too long, but the crazy thing is because his head was covered, he thought I couldn't see him. But I could see him perfectly. I think that's sometimes God playing hide and seek with us. It feels like, God, you can't see me. My mess is too big. My struggle is too deep. You can't see me. There's a guy by the name of, he's a professor at the University of Virginia. His name is Dennis Prophet. I was reading on a study that he did this last week. And he did a study, like a year-long study, using his students on the idea of perception. Think about this. And so what he did was he was trying to figure out how certain people see things, the same thing, but from certain different perspectives, from totally different perspectives. So he thought, I'm going to test this out with all the hills that are around our campus. And it's a hilly kind of an area, so there's, big hills and little hills. And so what he would do is he would tell people, I want you to go out and I want you to walk a mile going up. He'd give them a route, up a hill, down a hill, up a hill, and back to the campus. And then he'd say, I want you to rate what you feel like the grade is, the incline. And as he began to collect data, he began to get stuff back from people. One particular group of people, he gave them a backpack with about 30 pounds of stuff in it. He said, I want you to go out. And when they went out and walked the route, they came back and said, oh, that's a 25% grade, incline. But in reality, it was about 6%. But because they were carrying the backpack, man, that just felt like 25% to me. I'm sure it was 25. Another group of people were a little more overweight, not out of shape. They went out and walked them. Oh gosh, that's at least 28, 30%. Well, it's actually about an 8%. And then he had this flash of revelation. One group of people came back and they nailed it. 6% grade. He said, that's exactly right. Why? Oh, I got the women's track team. Do you see the connection? The people that were in shape and happy and sassy and all that, they nailed it. They knew exactly what they were dealing with. So what I'm after here is this, is that our perception can color what we think is real. It can distort what we think is reality. Hardship twists our perception of reality. How we see a situation depends on what you're capable of doing in a situation, he says. How I see a situation, if I see myself as a victim, if I see myself as powerless, if I see life as random and chance and who knows what reward, if I see everything as random, then I'm going to see that hill steeper than it really is. Man, I can't tell you how important this is, you guys. If there's something to take away, this is it. Our perspective, without God in the picture, man, my situation looks steeper and more difficult. He says, we perceive the world not as it is, but as it is for us. This is what creates so much angst and tension between peoples, because we don't listen to people's stories. We judge other people's stories through our own filter. We would say things like, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. That's what I did. When I was a kid, we walked, both directions to school, uphill, in the snow. We would say things like that, and people feel like, you know what, I don't want to talk to you because you're not listening to me. This is the tension we have between people and generations and races and other things because we just don't walk in the shoes that someone else is walking in. And what's beautiful about this story is God steps in to her world and says, Hagar, I see you. You're not alone. Man, I don't know about you, but that's a great feeling sometimes. You ever had a good friend come up? This is the beauty of authentic community. Listen, authentic community and healthy community is never going to be, hey, we all share a common experience. Yeah, we all went to grade school here. We all went this. We all were raised on the farm. We all were raised in the city. And that's what holds us together. That's the glue. No. The glue is that we all need grace in our lives to survive. The most powerful thing that binds us together is not our common experience, but our common need. I need God. I need God. And man, without God, I'm in trouble. God rescued me. That's why testimonies resonate with us so much. When I brought the ladies into the studio to film what you're watching, it was too difficult to get live because of the services. That's kind of the thing that was like, I don't know if anybody's going to relate to me. Honey, I said, you're going to be surprised how many people in the audience relate to you. I said, so just tell us. A healthy community looks out for everyone. In the Gospel of Matthew, and kind of a piece of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said this. He said, listen, are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside of your Father's care. He's trying to get his disciples to understand something. You know how many sparrows are in the world, son? No, I have no idea, but it must be a lot. Well, you know what? When one falls, I see it. And guess what? You're more important than one of those sparrows. I see it. I see the sparrow, and I see you. In the Old Testament, God told Moses to bless the people in this way. He said, Moses, I want you to stand in front of the people, and I want you to say these words. I want you to bless the families, and I want you to say, the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you, the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you. This is number 6. The Lord turn his face towards you. Isn't it interesting that favor and blessing had to do with God's face turning towards me? I see you. When we're ashamed, or when we're being shamed, or when we screw up, again, our perspective says, man, my backpack is full of rocks, and God wouldn't want to talk to me right now. God has nothing to say to me because I'm a screw up. I'm a failure. I don't cut it. I don't measure up to everybody else's stuff. And God's like, son, daughter of mine, stop. The Lord make his face shine upon you. The Lord be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you. The turning of a face of a father, man, was a sign and an indication of blessing and acceptance and favor. I love this story because it's so convoluted. I thought that's just like us. That's just like us. Our lives sometimes are convoluted and mixed up because of what we've done or the messes we've made. And God's like, hey, you know what? I've got grace for you. I have my eye on you. When we're in that situation, when we're in a tough situation like Hagar found herself in, man, it's easy to listen to voices that are not healthy because someone's looking to sell something or take advantage of weakness. But God steps in to show his favor. Hey, I want to extend my grace to you. I'm not the father who loves you conditionally. I'm the father who loves you unconditionally. I'm the mother that loves you unconditionally. This is Desiree.
Yeah, my name is Desiree, and I have 5 kids. My first is Abigail. She's 12. Symphony is 10. Oliver, 7. Journey, 2. And Joy is 1. The best part about being a mom for me is the unconditional love that my children show me day in and day out. Somebody who needs you more than anything. You are like their life source. That love is indescribable. But the most difficult part about being a mom is unlearning parenting tactics and habits from my parents and not bringing those to my children. receiving the Father's grace in this journey of being a single parent and not wanting to feel alone all of the time, and knowing the one source of just comfort came from Jesus and accepting my salvation. And once I did that, the game changed for me as a single parent. My children, I have seen a change in them since accepting my salvation. They are so excited about Jesus every time they go to church. The fact that they want to know more and more and more, they just devour everything. If I had someone point me in the direction of Jesus 7 years ago, the entire trajectory of my life would be so much different, and there would be a lot less suffering. And leaning into Jesus has brought me such a sense of peace that there's no way of mistaking it for anything else. And I am just so grateful to know him and to have him a part of my life today.
Desiree was just baptized right here about 5 months ago. She's actually serving in Kid Nation right now in this moment. She's one of us. We didn't bring these people from the outside. These are people that were in a community who saw them. Said, listen, I see your predicament. I see your struggle. I see what you're in. And I want to help you do it. I want to help you through it. So this last one is a God who doesn't give up. So 25 years later now, in the story, Abram is a ripe 100 years old. The miracle man, 100 years old. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abram in his old age at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave him the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 years old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter. That's what Isaac means, laughter. And everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. I mean, that would be the coolest baby shower ever, right? Like, whoa! You guys! The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abram was mocking. He's a young teenager now, he's probably 14 years old. So he's mocking his sibling. And she said to Abram, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. You would have thought that, man, okay, everything's going to turn out all right. Can't we just all live together? You have a son, I have a son, we're good. We're good, but we're not good because we have sibling rivalry. Would you kids behave? Would you calm down? Thanksgiving's going to be awkward if you don't settle down. And she's forced out again. She's homeless again. The matter distressed Abram so greatly because it concerned his son. So God said to him, do not be distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you. Because it's through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation as well, because he is your offspring. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and sent them off. She goes on her way and wanders in the desert of Beersheba. And when the water's gone, she puts the boy under the tree, one of the bushes. She goes off and sits down about a bow shot away, and she thinks, I cannot watch my son die. And as she sits there, she begins to sob. Man, there's just the, there's words to her emotions here. This is so broken. This is so wrong. This is so bad. And all she can do is cry because she can't bear to watch her son die of starvation and thirst. But God heard the boy crying. And the angel calls to Hagar from heaven and said, Hagar, what's the matter? Do not be afraid. There's the phrase again, do not be afraid. He said it to Abram, he said it to her. God, Hagar, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying. God has heard the boy crying. This is not the boy of promise. This is the boy of drama. This is the boy of dysfunction, whatever word you want to put on it, modern word. This is the boy of conflict. This is the boy that is causing all the problems. But listen, God has heard the cry of the boy. And God opened her eyes. She saw a well. She went and filled the skin with water and gave it to the boy to drink. And God was with the boy as he grew up. In this story, you just see this sovereign and persistent love of a God. He set up the whole drama. He set the whole thing in motion. He picked really unlikely characters, old man, old woman, slave, and yet his story is unfolding. God's story is unfolding in the midst of it, in the midst of all the crazy. And there's this persevering love. There's this unconditional love, which, by the way, I think is really what is the characteristic of a mom. Your love is persistent. Your love is just, it perseveres. It's unconditional. We've all seen situations where, honestly, the kid's on his way to juvie, and the mom goes, "He's a good boy. Actually, he's a criminal. But he's a good boy." But do you hear the heart of that? It's like, yeah, I know he screwed up, but he's my son and he's a good boy. Man, that's the heart of God. That's the heart of God. You're a good boy. You screwed up, but you're my son. Did you ever screw up, guys, when you were a kid and your mom would say this? "Oh," my mom would say, "Where did I go wrong?" I was like, "Mom, don't say that. Don't say that." But you know what she was doing? She was owning my stuff. "Mom, you didn't go wrong. I'm the one who screwed this up. I'm the one who's in detention. I'm the one." "Oh, but where did I go wrong?" "Mom, stop." But what was she doing? She was taking the fall for me. She was taking the fall for me. "Yeah, you screwed up, but oh, where did I go wrong?" "Mom, you didn't." That's the heart of God. "Listen, I'll take the fall for you." Yeah, bad decision. Slave girl, old man, bad decisions. But I'll take it. I'll take the mess. And I'm going to redeem it. And I'm going to bring nations out of it. And who would have ever imagined? I mean, I don't think Abram was, the high school graduate that was most likely to succeed. God says, "I'll take it. I'll redeem it. And I'll bring the nations out of it." This last story is Angie's story.
Hi, my name is Angie. I have a 2.5-year-old, and one of the things that I love about being a mother is the fact that they come to you for everything. She comes to me when she has an owie and when she is proud of herself, which is also part of the challenging part of being a mother. You are also the resource of everything, especially being a single mom as I am. I was the girl that grew up in the church. I knew right from wrong. I heard all the Bible lessons. I knew everything that you're supposed to know. But I struggled deeply in trusting God. And it was the detriment of several years of life that I think could have gone much better if I would have just leaned into God. One of the most significant times in our journey that we have really had to lean into God is when I finally came to a place and realized that we were not in a safe situation with her father. We were able to have him removed from the home, and there was a moment in that night after he was removed. I laid in bed crying, and I asked God, how am I supposed to feel in this moment? I don't know how I'm supposed to feel with my husband being removed from the home. And I just felt this overwhelming sense of grace and peace. And I heard God tell me, "You can feel free. You're finally free now."
What binds us together is our common need for grace. All three of those women are part of our community, and all three of those women, the course of their lives has been altered because somebody in this room invested and loved them. Talk to our table out there, Diana, and see how you might get involved in that if you're interested. But that's the heart of the gospel. Not that we have it all together, but while we were yet sinners, Christ died for the ungodly. God showed his love. For a righteous man, someone might dare to die, but God showed his love for us, that while we were yet sinners. Father, as we finish here this morning with communion, and we just pray that God, you would drive down into our heart, deep into our heart, that your grace goes beyond any of our sin. That your face turned towards us is a face of favor, not of contempt. I don't know who you are this morning, but if you came in here, and I just have a sense to say that you just feel like you have failed too many times. You have failed too deeply. You've disappointed people, and they've expressed that disappointment. I just want to say to you this morning that by the grace of a Father who sent his Son, you are accepted in the Beloved. You are seen by the Beloved. You are heard by God. And most importantly, you are loved more than you can ever imagine. And you may have been dealt a tough hand on this planet right now, but you are not thrown away by God. If you're visiting, our tradition is we take communion together before we leave. There's 4 stations around the auditorium. You can pick them up, and when everybody's served, we'll just finish together.